Hello, movie fans. This is Kevin Hutchinson once again, giving you a review from my mental movie seat. We just passed Halloween, and because of that, I want to talk to you about a certain genre of film that horror directors and sci-fi directors alike have used within the past 4 decades. It has now been just over 180 films into the genre. It gives a certain level of realism that typical films don't. That genre I'm talking about is found footage. Found footage basically gives you a perspective, like a first-person perspective, either by simple video cameras or phones, where the individuals give you a viewpoint from what's going on in the event of the film, like it's real. But we've learned, in the course of these decades that these films, they look like they're real, but they're pretty much not. Now, what I'm gonna do is give you a little history lesson in regards to the found footage genre, give you some information that you may not have known in regards to it, and give you my picks of favorite found footage films. And ironically, even though horror is used as genre a lot, most of my favorite found footage films wouldn't be considered horror. Surprise, surprise. Now, first, I want to give you a little backstory. Found footage films, though it's a movie genre, their origin or their inspiration for these films did not come from movies. Actually, it came from literature. Novels like Frankenstein and Dracula used a correspondence or a diary-like text in regards to the stories to make it seem like the person is giving you a perspective in regards to the events that's happening in that book, like more of first-person perspective. Instead of giving you a story or narrating a story, they give you a character in the book that tells you blow for blow, play by play of the events of the actual book itself. Gives you more a feel of being in the event. Now, the first found footage movie, no, it wasn't Blair Witch. It was actually filmed in 1961. It came out in 1961. It was called The Connection. It was directed by a director named Shirley Clarke. It was an experimental film at this time, and it basically about a director who was assigned to do an event for a person that went missing, another director that went missing. Now, during the time frame of his job there, he did experimental footage of a group of heroin addicts while they were on a drug binge. That was the story. And they made, and like Blair Witch, they made it seem like it was actually, real footage. Now, the first horror found footage genre type film was a film called Cannibal Holocaust. This came out about 1980, 2 years after I was born. It was directed by an Italian director named Ruggero Deodato. Now, the film basically is about a film crew who went into the Amazon rainforest to search for a film crew that went missing. And upon that search, they found a tribe of cannibals. Now, I'm not going to give you the full details of the movie, but I will tell you that at the end, there's a plot twist. There's a few plot twists in the film, but there's a big one in the end that basically will make you question who the real savages are. As I said, it was pretty much the first movie of its kind in the horror genre. Now, there were 7 other films that came out from 85 to 98. One more notable of those films was a film made by a very famous director we know now, Peter Jackson. Surprise, surprise. Peter Jackson, who made the Lord of the Rings movies and the King Kong film, he made a film named Forgotten Silver. This was a found footage genre film where he played himself. And he supposedly found old footage of a director, a filmmaker, who basically by accident created a lot of the filmmaking techniques that a lot of directors use today. Of course, like I said, it's fictional, but they made it seem like it was a real thing. Again, that film was called Forgotten Silver, and it was directed by Mr. Peter Jackson, one of my favorite directors right now, actually. Now, you had a lot of films that came out. It's like there's one based in 1998 called The Last Broadcast. There's a team of search for a famous. This film actually had, you may have seen this. Again, it's called The Last Broadcast. It's a team on the search of a famous urban legend called the Jersey Devil. Now, the budget was only $900, but it made $4 million. It was the first movie filmed using only consumer level digital equipment, like typical video cameras you can get from like Best Buy and Walmart. That's what they used to make this whole movie. Mr. Store big video cameras. In the next film that I want to talk about, you pretty much know this film very well. And, I have my memories in regards to prior to it coming out, the promotion of it. The Blair Witch Project. When it first was being promoted, I lived in Norfolk, Virginia. Now, I went to the Naval Base movie theater at the time, and I wanted to go see a certain film. I forgot what film I wanted to go see, but they had a big poster outside of the theater. It was a whitewashed poster of a forest, basically like a white background, black trees. And on the poster it said, in the summer of blah, 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 I forgot the year, 3 college students went into the Black Forest in Maryland to film a documentary. 3 months later, only their footage was found. The whole promotion behind the film was to make people believe that this actually happened. There's a few factoids you might want to know. The amount of money it took to make this film, it seemed like a lot for regular people, but for movies, this is pretty minuscule. $750,000. So that's what the budget. It made $248 million, becoming the 10th highest grossing film in 1999. What it takes to make movies, a lot of times it's on millions of dollars. Most films nowadays, it takes millions of dollars to make. If you got a budget from special effects, to how much you're paying the actors, how much you're paying the director, storyline, things of nature. Some like renting space for scenes, or paying towns to, paying taxes or stuff, or money to towns to use the backdrops of their town or city for purpose of the film. That's a lot of money. They only used less than $1 million and made 248. And then it's like at the Sundance Film Festival. This is when they first showed the film that year. The cast was not present, And the filmmakers labeled the cast. When they put a list of the cast, they labeled them either missing or deceased. You know, it's just to push that whole narrative that it was actually a real thing. It actually really happened. You know, another factoid. This is how big the Blair Witch Project was. You're talking about decades and decades upon horror films. At this time, it is still the 41st most profitable horror film ever made. You're talking about Jason's, Freddy, Michael Myers, Chucky, all these other big-time horror icons. It made enough money to become the 41st biggest horror film ever. Now, to help with the whole purpose of making it seem like it's real, they had a website dedicated to the story where they actually interview people, had actors or people that pretend to be townspeople, talking about the legend. And they actually had like a missing poster. You can find on the internet. There's actually a promotional missing poster of the 3 main actors in the film. Now, think about it. It was 1999. Pre major league things like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. USA Today, they labeled the Blair Witch Project as the first viral film. Basically meaning the campaign and word of mouth that it garnered was so vast. It got around so big. It got around so much. It was so vast in regards to the amount of buzz it got. They considered it the first viral film ever. Now, of course, that's before social media and things of that nature. Now, let me just talk about the Blair Witch Project a little bit, the movie itself. Now, this is just, like I said, it's a personal opinion. You have a lot of people that really love that film. When I saw it, my first initial reaction was, what the hell did I just watch? The film in itself, I understand they want to go with the whole stay with the mental state of, or the whole entire thought of making this look as real as possible. I left the film confused, honestly. I left the film thinking, why? Why is this so big? It's like, people were talking about it, they talking about like it was like the next Exorcist. Let me tell you something about the Exorcist film. I remember seeing one film critic talk about the Exorcist film. He said that when people usually left horror films back then, before Exorcist, they would be jump out the car, they used to jump out the car, excuse me. I hear a car in the background, excuse me. They would come out of the movie theater. They would be talking about the parts that made them jump. They would talk about the parts that they were scared of, and they would talk about everything that was going on in the film. But he said when people left The Exorcist, it was complete silence. No one wanted to talk about the movie. That's how deafening it was to experience that film. That's how it stuck with people. I remember the first time I saw The Exorcist. And, some people have, religious beliefs. I've actually have talked to pastors and their children, being involved in church when I was in my younger years, how they have been part of exorcisms, how they saw children, little girls, 11, 12 years old, be able to pick up grown men without problem. demonic possession to many is no joke. I do believe in spirit world. That's what I think it really resonated with me, was the fact that, you know, I do believe in the spirit world. So yeah. I'm not going to compare the two. There is no comparison. Blair Witch Project is nowhere close to what the impact that The Exorcist gave. But it did, you know, spark off, you know, inspire many other horror films since then. You know, one in particular, Paranormal Activity, that first made its debut, the first one made in 2007. Now, Paranormal Activity basically details the story of a family that was chosen by a demon to help bring this demon to fruition in this world. The demon's name was Toby. Yes, the demon's name was Toby. I know a lot of people that like the Paranormal Activity series. I watched the first two, actually first three. Wasn't impressed. I just thought that, you know, the build-up was so slow. For them to really build it up to, like, the main parts was, the main thing people talk about often when it comes to Paranormal Activity is the end scenes for each one. And, you know, if you were to accept what you saw as real, I guess you could consider it a little spooky. But after the Blair Witch Project, and that's another thing about the Blair Witch Project, you know, I want to talk about, is the fact that, you know, there was huge buzz from this film. While I was out, I made a lot of money, of course. And, you know, I was skeptic about it before the MTV Movie Awards that year. But when the cast of the Blair Witch Project came out, and everyone at the awards and everybody home was like, "Oh my God, they're still alive? It's not real?" I'm like one of the people like, how could you think that this was real? I saw the film, and the first thing I said was, this got to be fake. This is bogus. This can't be real. Come on, stop it. And then MTV Movie Awards came out, and I was just like, eh. If I was a gambling man, I probably would have made a lot of money if I bet people that I bet you this is not real. I would have been a millionaire by now. That's pretty much how I saw that film. And that same way I see Paranormal Activity. You know, now it's up to 8 films, with the new one coming out soon, Next to Kin, which is going to be on the Paramount streaming network. But still, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not going to spend much time on it. I just think that pretty much they've dragged it on to the point where now I just want to make money. And it's like, you know, it's connected, put a name to it, put the Paranormal Activity name to it, it'll make money. Me personally, I'm not looking forward to the new one either. I mean, Blair Witch spawned, I actually went to go see the sequel. The second Blair Witch Project movie. The Book of Shadows, I believe it's called. You're talking about the worst horror film I went to theaters to go see. Hands down. Worst horror film to go see. They came out with a couple of sequels. One is actually on Facebook. They have free movies on Facebook. The last one is actually on Facebook's free movie list. So if you want to see the new Blair Witch, the last Blair Witch movie, they went back to the roots of, you know, the Blair Witch Project when they did the found footage genre. They went back to it. Book of Shadows wasn't found footage. So, you know, as I said before, you can have over 180 films in genre. So I'm going to give you my list of what I feel are my favorites, and finally I'll give you my pick for best found footage genre film ever made. And not say, like, you can add me at it, but there's no argument here with me. You cannot argue me and tell me that this film is not the best found footage film ever made, hands down. First, we go into my picks for, best found footage movies, or my favorite ones. The first one was made in 2010. The Last Exorcism. Basically, The Last Exorcism was about a preacher who didn't really believe in the Word of God, but he used it just to make money. Now, he goes to a town where a little girl is actually possessed by a demon. Now, at first he still doesn't believe it. He's still trying to figure out what's this hoax that they're trying to pull, until he's brought to a point where he has no choice but to believe it because it's too much there. The ending itself is something you have to see, but it did a good job doing it from a found footage aspect. The next one, as I said, most of my list aren't horror films, and this one definitely isn't. In 2012, they came out with a film called Project X. Project X was basically a film about 3 young friends who wanted to put together the biggest party they could ever put together. But that party had a lot of issues that happened during the whole thing. It's all found footage. They did it on a found footage basis. One critic likened it to being a modern version of the film Animal House. I love Animal House, and I wouldn't do that. But I would say, if Project X is more like if the cast from American Pie did a found footage video of one of their parties, you pretty much would get Project X. The next one was a pretty good film, and it pretty much would have been a good film even if it wasn't found footage. In the year 2012, a film called End of Watch came out, starring Michael Pena and Jake Gyllenhaal, about 2 cops who find a drug house with a lot of horrific things in it, but the drug house owned by a Mexican cartel, which in turn puts their lives on the line, because now you have a group of Mexican gangbangers who there's a bounty on their heads. It's a good drama, tragic drama, but it's a good drama. I definitely recommend it. Now, the next film I wanted to talk about, one of my favorites, again, not horror. Actually, I think it's one of the better family films, better sci-fi family films that you can probably pretty much watch with your kids. In 2014, a film called Earth to Echo came out. Now, Earth to Echo, to me, reminds me a lot of aspects of Stand By Me with a mix of E.T. There's a group of kids. Now, this group of kids uncover a piece of what they think is a spaceship, but ends up being a small robotic alien being who they name Echo. And they go on a quest to find all the pieces to the ship so Echo can go home. It's a very good film. I would definitely recommend it. I love the story, and all of it's done in the found footage aspects, but it has a sci-fi element to it that gives a film a nice pop that kids will be glued to the TV to watch. Trust me. Now, the next film is more of a thriller, but the next film itself has a lot of aspects of it that was never used. I've never seen it before. In 2018, a film called Searching came out. I've talked about this film a lot of times before on social media. It was the first film that used strictly computer screen footage and cell phone footage in regards to the making of the film. It starred John Cho. Speaking of American Pie, he was actually in the movie American Pie, and he actually was in the film, the Harold and Kumar movies. And Deborah Messing of Will and Grace fame. Now, basically the film circles around Cho being a father, single father, whose daughter goes missing. And now most of the film is done in regards to interaction communication through computer and through cell phone. That's all you see, computer screen and cell phone. You're reading text and you're looking at video conferencing. It's so original, but the way they do it is so good. You'd have to see this film to know what I'm talking about. I definitely recommend it. Now, the next film was made in 2014. That's when I tell people about this film, you know, it's something because it shows realistic elements of something we all can connect to. Is weather. In 2014, the film Into the Storm came out. It was a strictly found footage type film that circled a group of I've called them like storm chasers, as they're going after, you know, viewpoints of tornadoes in Oklahoma. Now, it also circles around a bunch of other people that's from the town, the fictional town, you know, and it mainly circles around a family, a father and his two sons, and this group of storm chasers. Special effects are great. The end special effect, you would have to see to believe. There are certain things that, honestly, in films a lot of films don't scare me. The end scene, the end weather scene to this pretty much blew me out the water. You would have to see what I'm talking about. They show parts of it in the trailer. You see the trailer on YouTube, and the film itself been out for years. It's on DVD. You can find it anywhere. And I would say a lot of people downed the film because it gave them, a lot of critics didn't really like the film because it gave people the mindset of the film Twister that came out years ago with Helen Hunt. I'm here to tell you that you would have to see this film to believe it. It is good. I actually would recommend seeing Into the Storm or watching Into the Storm. Now, we've come to what I consider the best found footage movie of all time. Now, when I say best, I'm not kidding. I think they did the found footage genre a huge justice. And I thank J.J. Abrams every day for making this movie. The film I'm talking about is Cloverfield. Cloverfield came out in 2008. And I'm here to tell you, there has not been a found footage film that has touched it before or after. I don't care if it's Blair Witch. I don't care if it's Paranormal Activity. There's not been one single found footage film that has touched Cloverfield. Now, the funny thing about Cloverfield is that the inspiration came to Abrams while he was promoting the movie Mission Impossible 3 in Japan. He said he went to a store in Japan and they had a whole entire section of a store dedicated to Godzilla. He wanted to make a film basically giving his own Godzilla-like creature or a huge creature running amok in New York. Now, the film itself, here's a few factors about it. You know, it was produced by Abrams, who did Lost and the recent Star Trek movies. Matt Reeves, who was the director. Now, Matt Reeves, he did the War of Planet Apes film, the Dawn of Planet Apes film, and he also is going to direct the movie The Batman, which comes out next year. This film was everything when it comes to sci-fi, thrillers, or survival films. There are a few things that, you know, rumors go around and people have their own, you know, thoughts on the film. You know, the film itself, you have to watch all the way through. It just basically is a found footage type genre. It starts off with, it's a video that's supposed to be taken by U.S. government, that was found by the U.S. government. In a place they said formerly known as Central Park. Now, in the film, you'll see it first goes to the original video, which is this guy and his girl, you know, who were friends for years. They finally, you know, had their romantic moment and went to Coney Island. But the new recording over the original recording was that of a party for one of their friends who was going off to Japan for a couple of years. From that point, you hear a huge boom, and it goes from them at this party to them running for their lives as they're trying to make it through New York without being, you know, stepped on by a monster as big as one of New York's buildings. You know, there was a few things that people didn't realize about the film. The monster that you see in Cloverfield was actually a baby. Yes, I said it was a baby. This monster came out of the water, and it was actually a childlike. If you actually look at it, you actually see the movie and pay attention to the mannerisms of this monster. You basically say a lot of scenes where this monster is scared, does not know what's going on, and things of that nature, and has mannerisms of a child, if you actually look at it. Now, there have been a few spin-offs of the movie, a few side stories. One is called 10 Cloverfield Lane, starring John Goodman, where most of the film takes place in a bunker that he created, and he's keeping these two kids, and he tells them he's trying to keep them safe, you know. And there's elements of the original Cloverfield movie near the end. And then there's the Cloverfield paradox, which basically happens in space. And doesn't have a lot to do with the actual movie, the original movie, except for the end, where you see a full-grown Cloverfield monster. And yeah, that's not a baby. Now, there are also some few things about it that you may not have known. The film itself, there actually is going to be a sequel for it. It's currently in production. They wrote part of the script already, or majority of the script already, and you know, they made it known that there will be a sequel by really subliminal means. If you watch the movie at the end of credits, you hear someone say, you know, "Help us." Now, Abrams and other writers of films implore people to listen to that audio backwards, because when you play the audio backwards, it doesn't say "help us," it says "it's still alive." So they planned the sequel for years, and it's been, like I said, Film Creatures came out in 2008. It did so well that the sequel was garnered, and they really wanted to do a sequel, and they're planning to do a sequel, Cloverfield, and then they talk about perspective of, you know, just a second perspective of that same night from another person's camera. And they said that the person's camera, the camera person or the person holding the camera or taking camera footage of that night is shown in the movie. you have to really pay attention to it as an Easter egg for it. I vaguely remember seeing this person, but you know, if you look hard enough, you can find that person. Now, I just think personally that people really don't get how good Cloverfield actually was. You know, they had films like Kong vs. Godzilla that came out recently, earlier this year. It didn't touch Cloverfield to me. It didn't. I think Cloverfield is one of the better sci-fi films that we've seen within the past 20 years. I truly believe that. Cloverfield was one of the better films. You know, and you know, I think personally the genre itself, when used right, it is very good. When used wrong, you have Paranormal Activity. But there's a bunch of other films, like I said, over 180 that has used the found footage genre. Like films like As Above, and As Above, Down, So Below. You have films like Quarantine, Unfriended, other films of that nature that use the found footage genre. You know, there's a listing of them on Wikipedia, a bunch of all the found footage films. Again, like I said, the film Paranormal Activity Next of Kin will be out soon on the Paramount streaming network. You know, but I definitely would recommend, and I will say these films again. The Last Exorcism, Project X, End of Watch, Earth to Echo is definitely for families. Searching was definitely a recommendation. Into the Storm, you would like it if you actually gave it a shot. And definitely Cloverfield. But I thank you guys for the time that y'all took out to watch this video, and you know, watch, share, like, subscribe. I'm gonna have some more, you know, subjects to talk about, including a few films that are soon to come out that I cannot wait to see. And the trailers, I've actually posted one of the trailers for one of the movies that I really like. I really want to see. Comes out my birthday month next year. Ambulance. That's going to be the first great film of 2022. And again, Jake Gyllenhaal stars him, and I've never seen a bad Jake Gyllenhaal movie. Honestly, I've never seen a bad Jake Gyllenhaal movie. It basically stars him, and it's hard to pronounce this man's name. I don't want to get it wrong, but he stars in the films Aquaman as Black Manta. He's actually in the Jordan Peele Candyman movie. He's the main character. In this film, he plays a former fellow soldier to Jake Gyllenhaal's character, and his wife is pretty much needing a surgery or she'll die. I told one friend, if John Q in the movie The Town had a love child, it would be Ambulance. This film is going to be great. I truly believe it's going to be great. You know, also the Spider-Man film's coming out soon. No Way Home. I definitely got to see that. There are films that they recently showed trailers. There's this movie, I believe it's called Unforgiven, with Sandra Bullock and Viola Davis. That really looks like it's going to be a good drama. It's just, you know, I'm going to do another video about that and some other films, you know, and also I'll be giving you a late review on the film Dune this upcoming weekend. So keep things posted, and I will see you guys again soon. Have a good night.